Hello. We hit 1,000 subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's nuts. Let's do a Q&A. Baby Don't Hurt Me No More asks, what is love? Great question. Baby Don't Hurt Me No More. So love is a strong emotional attachment or connection to something, usually positive. I say usually instead of like definitely because I feel like whilst love in and of itself is a positive thing, like you don't necessarily always feel entirely positive about the things you love. Like love is more about like I deeply, deeply care and feel connected to whatever thing it is or person or place that you love. Yeah, that's how I describe it. Thank you for your question. I know it was a joke, but I also love that. I love that, and since you put this question into the form, I haven't been able to get that song out of my head. So you're my favorite person. Yeah. Cool. Next, the square that computers make when they're confused about an emoji asks, where did you hear about Altaris Attraction and what made you want to make videos about it? This might not actually be that interesting an answer for you, and I apologize. I think I just saw a screenshot of a Tumblr post on Facebook and I went, oh yeah, that's interesting. That's making me feel things. That's resonating. And so I kept it in the back of my brain for a while. And it was just a feeling that I'd had a lot of like, it's not quite romantic, not quite platonic, but definitely a something feeling that I'd have towards people reappearing throughout my life. And so I made Mesh, and it was at that point I was doing a short film a month. That was my challenge for myself. And Mesh was one that I made during lockdown, and I thought it was the kind of thing I can make by myself while I didn't have access to other people. And it resonated with so many people that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look more into this. I'm gonna do some like solid, make sure that I have a solid understanding of this, and I'm gonna make another video about it because it meant so much to people, and so that's why I made videos about it. Yeah, I'm sorry if that's not that interesting an answer. But I'll move on. So Jack_Palette asks, what is your plan for a zombie apocalypse? Now, I don't actually have a ready-to-go zombie apocalypse plan. I basically hadn't ever thought about this until you asked me this, Jack. So thank you for the thought exercise. I've essentially landed on this. I would stay in as much as possible, and surround myself with people who have a diverse set of skill sets that I lack. I don't know what I'd be bringing to this team, but I'd want someone who knows how to grow stuff. Like I have friends who study horticulture. I have a couple of friends who own farms. I want someone who has medical knowledge. So yeah, doctors, veterinarians, they're very useful. I want someone who knows how to build stuff, like very handy, has a bunch of tools. I think that's very useful too. I want people who, yeah, very resourceful, good at finding stuff. So just a small little community of a couple of people with a bunch of different skills. Again, I don't know what I bring to the table. Someone who drives is probably useful. Again, not useful there. I can cook for everyone, I guess, and sing songs to stop people from, you know, going nuts. I guess that's what I bring to the table. And my board game collection. But yeah, essentially, get a small group. We lock ourselves in somewhere where we're able to mostly grow our own food and try and sustain ourselves that way. It'll be very hard work, of course. I'm happy to help in the labor of growing food. And we just hide until basically, yeah, we hide until they find a vaccine, and then I get that straight away, and hopefully that means I can't turn into a zombie. And if I do turn into a zombie, if there's any chance I might turn into a zombie, I make sure, absolutely sure, that I cannot hurt anyone. And you interpret that in whatever manner you will. Cool. Next question. So Alex asked, why do you usually call yourself aspec instead of asexual? I've heard you do it a few times, and I think in your micro-label video you said it's the main label you use. Just curious as to why. And then some really nice words thanking me. Thank you, Alex. But yeah, I mostly use aspec instead of asexual because basically aspec is the umbrella label for both the asexual and aromantic spectrums, and sometimes the agender spectrum, and because I relate to all of those things, it's just more natural for me to be like, that me, instead of like having to list a whole bunch of things. So that's the first reason. The second reason is like, again, I'm not entirely sure where on those spectrums I fit. Like, it's hard to know. Like, I still don't entirely understand what attraction, especially romantic attraction, is supposed to feel like. And so it feels hard to say that, no, I definitely don't experience that. I know everyone's like, oh, if you know it when you feel it, but like, that's such a shit answer. And as an autistic person, I don't buy that. Like, that's one of the reasons. I also do have like significant attractions to people that I can't place, and maybe it's all alterous or maybe it's something else, and like that's all part of my experience. But I think like I want people to know that I do heavily lean towards the aromantic, the asexual sides, even if it's not all like, buh, I am end of the spectrum, because that is so significant to my experience. Like, I am 27, I've barely dated anyone, and look, it wasn't an unpleasant experience, but I think I learnt a lot about what I don't want, which was really useful. I'm also really sick of aromanticism being left out of the conversation. This is not an attack on you. I know you said asexual. This is not an attack on you. I just mean in general. Asexuality, yes, is important to my experience, but aromanticism, I feel like, probably affects me more, because I think amatonormativity, it leans harder on that angle. It definitely still leans pretty hard on the sexuality angle, but like, it does expect you to be pairing off, and you know, having these sort of hierarchical relationships. So this is the one person that I want to spend most of my time with, which just isn't for me. Like, even if I do find out that the attraction I have felt has been romantic this whole time, like, I've never felt like I have to put all of my time and energy into just one person. Like, I find it so much more fulfilling to foster a community of people and let them all know that I love them, in whatever way I love them, even if I don't know. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Cool. Anonymous asks, why did you start making YouTube videos? Basically, this channel is not the first time I've attempted the YouTube thing. I did a collab channel about asexuality stuff. Was started in 2016? No, it about ended in 2016. It started in 2013, I think. And I was just 17. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to talk about asexuality, because I kept seeing so many people in that community talking about how not knowing who they were made them feel broken, made them feel alone, made them feel like there was something wrong with them. And I was like, that's bullshit. I don't want anyone to have to feel that. And I wanted to do my part into minimizing that as much as possible. So that's why I started making YouTube videos then. So after that, or maybe simultaneously with that, I had my attempt at doing like music YouTube, and that was just purely for my ego. Like, I just wanted to make music, and I just put out a lot of really bad covers. Well, Queer Sounds also happened, which was a project I did with another artist, and basically the two of us, we wrote songs together and we recorded them together and we put them out. I really miss that. It was such a lovely little couple of years where we were doing that. Yeah, if you're gonna look at any of the old stuff I've done, look at the Queer Sound stuff, because I am actually proud of that. Even though some of it's a bit like dated, I'm still proud of it. And yeah, so that was, we wanted specifically to make an anthem for like World Pride 2014. That's why we started that project. And then, yeah, cut to, well, I put my first video up here 2016, I think, and it was just because like I wanted to make that specific video. Like, I didn't want to start a YouTube channel, but I wanted to make that video. So I did, I made that video, and then I decided I was going to properly start a YouTube channel in 2020. So at the time, I'd been doing these sort of challenges for myself where I'd make these sort of year-long challenges. So I think 2018, my challenge to myself was to watch a film I hadn't seen before every day. And then 2019, I wanted to write for an hour at least every day, which was nuts. And then 2020, I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to make a short film and put it on the internet once a month, and I'm going to record a song and put it on the internet once a month. And that was my initial goal. And the goal was to sort of create a portfolio of work, because I work in theatre, and I'm trying to work in the screen industry as well. And it's always good to be able to say, look, here's the kind of things I make, and just have them at hand. So that's sort of why I started this YouTube channel. And then we had the pandemic happen, and we went into lockdown, and I suddenly had a lot more time on my hands. And I started making things just because I really realized how much I love making videos, especially this sort of sit down and talk video. I think I like the scripted ones more personally, because I always worry about what I will say when I don't have a script. Yeah, but that's sort of why I started this channel. So I guess those are all the reasons that I'm on YouTube. Right now, it's just because I enjoy making videos, honestly, and also because all of you are here. Like, I don't want to make this seem like obligatory or anything, but I think like, knowing that people are interested in what I have to say motivates me to say more stuff. Like, I don't owe you anything, but I want to give back to you. Like, you have invested in me in wanting to listen to what I want to say, and so I should be a part of that dialogue. Yeah, I think. Catastrophic asks, what's one of your favorite musicals and why? Good question. See, I have the like stock answer of what my favorite musical is from when I was like 18, which is Sweeney Todd, and I still love that musical. But I feel like I've not actually stopped and thought about this in a while, for a few reasons. I'm not as into musicals as I was as like an 18-year-old. Like, musicals were my thing. Now I'm much more into sort of like independent theatre than I am big musicals, because they sort of feel like the artist is there with you and they're really interested in the conversation you're having. Whereas a lot of big musicals, I feel like the point of why they're being put on is lost sometimes. And a lot of the performers are there for a paycheck. They might have been really excited about it at the beginning of the season, but now they've done the show 500 times in a row and they're just going through the motions sometimes. So I really just enjoy those smaller scale productions more because everyone there's really excited about what they're making and what they're sharing with you. Sorry, this is not answering your question at all, but this is Artemis Rants About Theatre. Yeah, favorite musical. That's hard. It's really hard. You said one of. Sweeney Todd, yes, is one of. I love Sondheim. If I had to talk about music theatre, I would talk about Sondheim. I actually think I like Into the Woods more than Sweeney Todd now. I just think it's got more depth. It's got more of a thing to say. Like, let's make a show about well-known fairy tales that's all about consequences. Make a show full of, like, not good people and make them have to reckon with it. Like, you're not good, you're not bad, you're just nice. Like, yeah, it's nuts how good that show is. And of course the music, like, I don't even need to tell you how good Sondheim's music writing is. So that's the one I'm going to talk about. And I have been talking about. But yeah, like, other Sondheim shows I love a lot. Sweeney Todd, Assassins, Company gives me feelings, not necessarily good feelings. Go watch David J. Bradley's video about it if you basically want a snapshot into my feelings about that show, because yeah, like, it's almost exactly how I felt. Yeah, that's musicals. Cool. M asks, what YouTubers are an inspiration for this channel? So like I said earlier, I did not start this channel to be a YouTube channel. Like, I started it to be a portfolio of work. But now if I think about, like, I gotta be honest, I have thought about this. I've thought about, like, what sort of space in this weird video corner of the internet I want to carve out for myself. And I guess if I had to pick YouTubers that I feel like I would be the middle part of that Venn diagram, or I hope to get to the place where I'm the middle part of that Venn diagram. I'm not right now. I would say Jessica Kellgren-Fozard, Brian David Gilbert, and Red Planet. So Jessica, because very chill vibes, very, like, sort of straightforward, informational, conversational videos about queer stuff, about disability stuff, about history, about culture, about activism. Well, not about activism, but, you know, like, that stuff. That's what I love about Jessica's work that I'd like to bring into mine. Brian David Gilbert for the chaos, for the songs, for the sketches, for being able to get ideas across in abstract ways, and for just having a lot of fun. Like, you can tell in everything he makes that he had fun making it, and I want that as well. And then Red Planet, probably the least known of the three I'm mentioning, but it's a sort of, like, it's a live stream that they put on YouTube, so I don't know if I can really call them YouTubers, but they essentially, like, they look at real life activism that people are doing in the world. They break it down for inspiration, and they give viewers homework on things they can do to try and move us towards a better world, which is really cool. And, like, I want more of that in my work, 100%. I want to be able to be encouraging people to go out there and be active and make a difference. As much as YouTube is just entertainment, I don't want to be just entertainment. Like, I want to be I want to be using my art or my platform or whatever you want to call this to not just like disability inspiration porn inspire people, but to actually like inspire people to go and do something. What I really want is for people to be going out there and bettering their communities, and if I can be a part of helping people get there, that'd be great. If I can somehow manage to do it in the way that makes you feel like a warm hug that Jessica Kellgren-Vozard does, in the way that makes you not know how I'm going to, or what I'm going to come out with next, that Brian David Gilbert does. If I can do that, that'd be amazing. Probably can't. I probably won't do that, but that's sort of like my goal. If I had to pick YouTubers that are my inspiration for what I'm trying to do here, I guess that'd be it. This question, I've seen it. I've seen all the questions because I put them in a particular order, and I'm just a bit nervous. So Anonymous asks, do you think your autism is connected to you being non-binary? I'm not trying to be offensive, but I've been wondering that about myself, and I thought maybe you'd have a good perspective. The reason I'm nervous about this is because this is actually part of a bigger discourse that people are having, that they're using basically autism as a way of invalidating people's transness. And I don't think that that's what Anonymous is trying to do here. Like, they're asking questions about themselves, which firstly, I will say, I can't tell you anything about your own experience, unfortunately. I can only tell you mine. But I do hope that, you know, in everything I do that is based in my own lived experience, that in sharing my experience, maybe I give you like a framework for understanding your own, or I give you a sense of, oh, I'm not alone, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, I guess before I answer this question, which I will answer probably in terms of my own experience, I just want to say that, like, no matter what anyone's answer to this question is X connected to Y in terms of their experience, in terms of their identity, no matter what they say, they still are those things. Like, it doesn't matter if one has caused another, like, it's still part of their experience. So, like, the fact that people will try to use someone's autism as a excuse for invalidating their gender is ridiculous to me, because it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, if one has caused another, okay, they're still both real things about this person. Yeah, so that's the first thing I'll say. And in terms of my own experience, I do believe there's probably a connection, because I still don't really understand what gender is. What I do know is the language that makes me feel comfortable and happy. I know that I cried with joy the first time someone used they, them pronouns to refer to me. I know that. But, like, gender is a social construct, and as an autistic person, those can be hard to grasp. So I reckon there probably is an element in there that is related, that it's part of the kaleidoscope that is me and my brain. I don't think it's everything, but I think it's part of it. That's just my experience. Yeah. But, like, I couldn't separate one thing from another and say, like, this is where gender stuff ends and this is where autism stuff begins. Like, because it's all me, and I've always been me. Like, I knew I was non-binary before I knew I was autistic, but this has always been my brain. And I look back at when I was a child and I was like, oh, that's a non-binary thing to do, and it's like, that's an autistic thing to do. How did I not see it? But I didn't at the time. And you know, we only have the language and the perspective that we have when we get it. That was like a life needs things to live fucking sentence. But that's my general thoughts. Does Zoe_Bowie asks, do you have an email from yet? Yes, I do. They got back to me within a couple of days of you sending me this. I will admit this question's just in here so that I can have exactly 10 questions to answer in my Q&A video. But she did legit respond to my Instagram story call out asking for questions. So this is your fault, Zoe. You knew this might happen. Sorry. Zoe's my agent, in case you didn't know. Very silly, very fun. But no, I'm gonna bleep the name of the thing I just mentioned because it's under an embargo and I'm not allowed to talk about that yet. And then one more question. Ace asks, what's your favorite Ace Pride symbol? This one's easy for me because it's garlic bread. It's obviously garlic bread. Like, I am more of a savory person than a sweet tooth. So garlic bread wins over cake easily. There are other cool symbols like the card stuff is cute, but then I think people get too in the weeds about like, no, the spade means this and the club means this, and that takes a bit of the fun out of it. Also, just food wins. Food wins every time. Like, if I had to pick a favorite symbol and there's a food one, I'm a hobbit. I'm literally just a hobbit. I'm a smallish human. I love food. I love hanging out with my buddies. Yeah, what more can I say? But yeah, that's all the questions I've got today. We had exactly 10, and I had initially asked, well, I don't know if I asked, but when I put the call out for questions, I definitely had in my head, I don't know if I told you all this, I might have, I'll check the post. I had in my head that we were going to answer 1,000 questions. I'm really glad we didn't, because that would have been an exceptionally long video, and I really like to talk. We had yeah, 100th of that, I think, maths. But I think that was better. That was more manageable. And I got it to be a nice round number. So I'm happy. I'm very happy. And I'm so grateful to you all for being here, for watching a video of mine and thinking, yeah, I'll stick around. I'll stick around to see what this person might say in the future. I know people say that subscriptions don't matter on YouTube anymore. I personally still use my subscription box a lot. It's the main way I choose what I'm going to watch on this platform. So I'd like to think that a couple of you out there are similar and that you hit that subscribe button because you are interested in seeing what I have to say in the future. But anyway, thank you nonetheless. Lots of love to all of you and to all of my patrons especially who went the extra mile of deciding to give me money to support the weird things I make. So yeah, huge thanks. Love all of you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!